This is Eyewitness News Up Close with Bill Ritter.
If you are a New Yorker, I am your mayor.
Nearly 3 weeks ago, he took the office as mayor of New York. Zohran Mamdani, at the age of just 34, he was the second youngest mayor ever, and he is the first Muslim mayor of the largest city in the United States. And as you might imagine, it's been a busy month for the new mayor, getting his staff in order, pushing the affordability agenda that he campaigned on, and last week, moving from a one-bedroom apartment into an 11,000 square foot Gracie mansion. So how's it going for the new mayor? And any surprises so far? Mayor Mamdani, our guest this morning on Up Close. Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Up Close. I'm Bill Ritter. This morning, we are in the Blue Room of New York City Hall. It is really cool in this place, where we happen to run in to the new mayor. What are the odds of that? He just happens to be right here, and
here I was.
He's ready to talk, right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for coming on.
Very welcome.
I appreciate that. Let's start, before we get into the weeds of all this, let's start with what you feel 2.5 weeks later or so from your first tenure as the main guy in New York City.
I mean, it's been incredible. Today, marks a little over 2 weeks, and each and every day we're just trying to match the hustle of New Yorkers and move as quickly as they do. And it's been so exciting to actually be able to show that government can work for working people and we can deliver for working people, and that there's no problem too big and no issue too small.
Has there been something so extraordinarily incredible that you just have to tell us about? You have to tell us about. And are there things that are just so horrible you didn't want to talk about?
I'll be honest with you that we were able to secure this partnership with Governor Hochul on delivering universal child care within the first 2 weeks of our administration, more than $1 billion in state funding to not just fix child care for 3-year-olds, but to start to deliver universal child care for 2-year-olds. That is something that will transform thousands of New Yorkers' lives. And as we both know, after housing, child care is the #1 cost for families in the city. We're talking about an average cost of more than $26,000 a year. If their child enrolls into 3K or what is going to be called 2K, they could save that money entirely. And that's been amazing. I think the things that have been difficult is you see what the incredible men and women of New York City workforce deal with on a daily basis. There were 2 days in a row where there was a 5-alarm fire. And I got to see up close the incredible work of first responders and the FDNY in ensuring that though this was some of the most significant fires we'd seen in the Bronx and in Queens, thankfully no New Yorker lost their life.
Right, and that's disappointing, of course, when all of a sudden there are fires and people lose their homes, and that's horrible. Yeah. Has there been anything that has made you think like, oh, I should have done that differently?
I would say each and every day is a lesson. You always learn how, not only how you can be delivering for New Yorkers, but how you can get better on a day-to-day basis. And I think that has to be part of the work we do, is an unrelenting drive for excellence. You can't be satisfied.
One more question before we get into the weeds. You were an assemblyman for 4 years. Yeah. I think there were 150 others total, right? You're 1 in 150. Most people did not know who the heck you are, and they certainly do now. There's no question.
I used to see myself in the mirror and be like, who's that guy?
Yeah, well, now you can look at our TV cameras and there people are cheering when you go by. Cops protecting you 24/7. How are you adapting to all that? It's a very different way of life.
It is a different way of life. I think the thing that I love is it's still in the city that I love. And I get to still move around this city and also remember the person that I am before I was the mayor, the person that I'll be after the mayor, and the 2 most important words to describe that person is a New Yorker.
So you see what's happening right now and you understand what the future may hold. Maybe.
Maybe.
You got a lot to do between the two things.
Yes,
let's get right into it.
Please.
Let's talk about your plans and what they're doing. One of the early surprises were, you said it earlier, Governor Hochul. The mantra seemed to me throughout all that is the kids are the future. What is more important than that? Not much.
Truly.
Are you satisfied, though, with the plan to phase in the child care effort?
I think it's an incredible plan, and I think what it will show is that we can deliver universal child care for 3-year-olds and start to do it for 2-year-olds. And I think the governor had said it last year herself that this would be the year for child care. She had talked about universal child care, and this agreement shows that we're actually going to be able to deliver that for New Yorkers. And we know that child care is one part of an affordability agenda. It's not the beginning and the end of all the work, but it's a major part because, as we said, right now New Yorkers, when they're choosing to start a family, they're having to make the choice between doing that and staying in the city because of how expensive we've made it.
And if you don't have that, if you don't have the money to be able to do that, then you're not going to have a job. And that's not a good thing either, right? Under your plan.
Yes, I mean, this is, I thought you were saying I wouldn't have a job.
No,
yes.
One person.
Yes.
The person.
This is the key, is that there are a lot of New Yorkers who would like to return to the workforce or join the workforce, but the cost of childcare for them to do so is too high. And so what this does is, it doesn't just take care of children, it also takes care of parents, because they can start to earn a living without having to worry about their kids.
Right. Let's fingers crossed. A lot of people out there, certainly
Yes.
parents, are saying that. One thing Governor Hochul did not mention in her State of the State is your push for free buses. Are free buses going to happen in New York City? Can you afford to do that?
You know, I continue to believe in the importance of making buses free, and that's something that we will deliver by the time that I'm done being the mayor. And I can tell you right now in New York City we have one free bus, the Q70 in Queens, and I rode it the other day, and I met New Yorkers for whom it made such a difference that at the time they weren't having to pay $2.90, now it's $3. And we know that the importance of making it free, it's not just economic relief, especially for the bus riders, the vast majority of whom are making around $28,000 a year or less. It's also about the public safety benefits, because when a bus is free, there are a significant reduction in assaults on bus drivers.
You've got lots of ambitious programs, there's no question. The housing freezes, free childcare, transit. But the city's budget is already in some constrained values right now. $2 billion in the current fiscal year that you didn't know about when you were running for election, up to $10 billion next budget time. Will you have to cut back on things to make this work?
You know, I think you actually said it best yourself in the beginning of that, which is that not only did I not know about it, but a lot of New Yorkers were not made clear as to what the state of this city's fiscal health was. And that's because we are inheriting an administration of fiscal mismanagement from the prior admin, as well as former Governor Cuomo's decades-long attack on the city's coffers. And together what those things have done is deliver this bill of health that shows about a $12 billion deficit over 2 fiscal years.
How do you solve it?
I continue to believe that we solve it in a number of ways. The first is that we have to raise revenue. We have to tax the wealthiest New Yorkers, the most profitable corporations, and that we have to change the city's relationship with the state. What I mean by that is today, as a result of former Governor Cuomo's efforts over more than a decade, the city sends about 54.5% of tax revenue to the state. It receives 40.5% from the state. There is no relationship as unequal between that of the city and the state, and that is a legacy of politics of the past.
You can say the same thing about how much money the federal government takes from the city of New York as well.
And I think what New Yorkers are looking for is just what's fair. And I continue to be confident in the partnerships we'll build to deliver that.
But you already said that you were going to, before this thing happened, you said you were going to tax people over
the wealthiest.
Right,
yes.
the wealthiest. You're going to do it more now because of this?
It's the same thing. We have said from the beginning that the necessity of increased revenue is not just to fund an affordability agenda, but also to put the city on firmer financial footing. And I think that's what we all care about. We want this to be a city where we never have to question if when we wake up are the most essential services going to be fulfilled.
Okay. You ran on the affordability issue, and a lot of people have gotten on that bandwagon since then. It's been only 2.5 weeks, I know, but what can we expect in the coming weeks and months from you to make the city more affordable?
I think the focus is going to be on things that are both big, like childcare, as well as things that are small, like the announcement we made of issuing an RFP for additional public bathrooms across the city. Right now, there are too many New Yorkers, myself included, who've had to pay $9 for a coffee just to find a place to go. And this is one small way we can make this city an easier place to live in. And that's going to be our focus every day, because what New Yorkers care about at the end of it is, can they afford to keep calling the city their home? That's what we want to make an easier question to answer.
I suspect you're going to be able to get your coffee free here in this. Just one of the benefits of being mayor, I think. All indications are that rents continue to soar. Anything you plan to do short term to help renters?
Absolutely. This is the #1 crisis in our city. On the very first day that I became the mayor of New York City, we went to announce a number of executive orders that would not only stand up for tenants in existing housing, but also that would expedite the production of new housing. These two things have to be done together. We have to build more housing in the city, and we have to protect those who live in that housing. And so to me, it's about fulfilling the promise to freezing the rent for rent-stabilized tenants. I continue to believe that those tenants deserve that. And it's about building enough housing that you're helping market-rate tenants as well.
How quickly do you think you can make that happen?
Which one?
Everything, all that stuff. Very good. Okay, well taken. That's a well taken thing. Let's talk about rent freeze a little more. Maybe running into some roadblocks if you read the papers. What's your strategy for actually impacting a rent freeze, and the timeline that you want this to happen.
So the Rent Guidelines Board makes a decision on an annual basis about whether it's going to increase the rents or whether it's going to keep them as they are. You know, in the previous 2 mayors ago, the Rent Guidelines Board froze the rent 3 times. In the previous mayor's administration, they raised the rent 4 times. So I continue to believe that when they do an assessment of the fiscal health of not just the buildings but also of the tenants, they'll find that those tenants deserve relief. Because the last year that they did that, they found that the median household income of a rent-stabilized tenant, $60,000 a year. The average profits of the landlords of those units, 12%. There's room to give people a little bit of breathing room, because otherwise you have seniors who are coming up to you and saying, I'm having to choose between rent and my medicine. And that's not a choice we should put on any New Yorker.
No, it's horrible. And on the other side, I always say in our newsrooms on this, when we talk about that time when it comes to that, I say it's a lose-lose for everyone. Despite what you just said about the landlords, there are a lot of landlords that say we can't afford to do this, and so we're not improving the benefits of those apartments. We don't do anything to help.
And I think that's what I've also heard from tenants is, I pay the rent increase every year and the conditions don't get better. So I think for me, we want to provide relief to tenants. We also want to provide relief to landlords. It's just that the relief to landlords doesn't have to be tied to putting that on the backs of those tenants. What I mean by that is, you ask a landlord, what are the top expenses? Some of those also include insurance. Some of them also include the tax system of property taxes across the city. I think there are things that the city can do, that the state can do, that can make for a fairer system, that can make it easier to maintain those buildings.
From your lips, my brother, you talked about the 200,000 new affordable housing units. Let's talk a little bit about it real quickly. What steps can you do to make that happen sooner rather than later?
So we've said we're going to build 200,000 truly affordable homes over the next 10 years. And one of the most important appointments we made was our Deputy Mayor for Housing and Planning, Layla Bozarg. And one of the reasons why we created a Deputy Mayor specifically for housing and planning, as opposed to what's traditionally also been incorporating economic development, is so that she could focus on that, and that economic development could also be focused on, as opposed to collapsing those 2 portfolios. And what I really appreciate about Deputy Mayor Bozarg is that she understands that you have to be able to fight for the tenants of today and the tenants of tomorrow. And the tenants of tomorrow can only come to New York City if you are building enough housing. So she's looking at city lots that can be used to build housing on. She's looking at what a citywide housing plan could look like. Because for a long time, we know that in New York City, we've built housing neighborhood by neighborhood. We've said we can chip away at it over here or over there. This is a citywide issue. It needs a citywide response.
Are you involving people who do deal with housing?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm talking about business people.
Yes,
There's
there's no question.
how's that been with you?
It's actually been very encouraging to have those conversations, because I'll speak with developers and I'll ask them, what are the issues that you're facing in building more housing? Yeah. Maybe they will disagree with me on questions of rent. Maybe they'll disagree with me on questions of labor. One thing we'll always agree on, though, is the question of the wait. I have heard too many developers tell me that the wait is one of the most expensive things they're paying for. That's in nobody's interests. Yeah. So the other day, we came forward to say, we do believe the state environmental review period should be shortened so that we can actually get through these processes quicker while still paying attention to the environmental consequence.
I want to switch gears a little bit. You rescinded all of Mayor Adams' executive orders issued after his indictment in September 24 of federal corruption charges. This was codifying the definition of anti-Semitism. Many Jewish groups attacked what you did. What was your thinking when you did this? I mean, there are 1 million Jews living in the city where you're the boss.
Absolutely, and I'm so proud to be their mayor and the mayor for every person who calls the city home. And you're right, we rescinded every single executive order the previous mayor had issued after being indicted, because that was a day when New Yorkers started to question what the motive was of any of those orders, whether it had more to do with the indictment or, in fact, more to do with New Yorkers. And we found time and time again, people landed on the indictment. And so for me, the commitment to fighting anti-Semitism, it continues to be one that not only I maintain, but I will fulfill. And that's why in our second executive order, we made clear that we are retaining the mayor's office to combat anti-Semitism and to take on that crisis across the city.
On Friday, the city council speaker, Julie Menon, who is new at the job, proposed a measure restoring what was in Mayor Adams' executive orders. I know you know about this. The ones you overturned. If the city council approves that, would you sign it or would you veto it?
So the speaker put forward a number of bills. The one that you're referring to is specific to the proposal of buffer zones. Right. And so what I did is I made clear on my first day a direction to my police commissioner and my law department to review the legality of proposals, just like Speaker Menon's proposal for buffer zones, and then to actually report that back to me. And so I'm waiting for that review.
And then what would happen? You'll just go by that review?
If something is in the bounds of the law, I will support that. Right. If it's not, then I can't.
Keep us posted.
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
The nurses' strike. Everyone hopes it's over soon. This week, you were at one of the strikes outside. A very big deal for New Yorkers and their health, and especially for a growing population in the city, people over the age of 60.
Yes.
Hopefully this is settled in
Absolutely.
this weekend, hopefully. But how do you balance your labor solidarity with your responsibility to keep essential services running smoothly?
I think you make clear time and time again, as I've done so, that we not only want all parties to return to the negotiating table, and we're heartened to see news that that's taken place, but that we get to a swift and decisive resolution of this. And I will also say that we know that the worth of nurses and in the work that they do is not one that should be questioned or compromised on in trying to get to that settlement, and that my Office of Emergency Management continues to monitor health and hospital capacity to ensure that if there's any diversions necessary, we provide that, and that we ensure that any impact of this strike on New Yorkers' lives is minimal.
All right. I do want to get some of these questions in. I'm going to speed through there a little bit. President Trump continues to crack down on immigration, as you well know. Undocumented workers, huge part of this economy. You know that as well. The deadly shooting of that 37-year-old mom in Minneapolis had horrified people around the country. How will you deal with the president's strategy for dealing with things like that in New York?
I will always be direct and honest with the president, just as I was in the Oval Office. We had a productive meeting. We focused on the city that we both love. And I was also very clear that ICE raids are cruel and inhumane, and they do nothing to actually serve the interests of public safety. And my job is to keep New Yorkers safe, and that includes the more than 3 million New Yorkers of an immigrant background, of which I'm one of them.
Since you took office, have there been any changes in either the city, and the city with the NYPD, how that deals with Mr. Trump and ICE agents, and have they talked to you about that?
We continue to maintain that our NYPD and our city government will follow the law of our sanctuary city policies, and I'm proud to say that that's something that we not only do because we're required to, but also because we believe in it.
Sanctuary cities, 200 of them in the whole, all of states, all of them around the country. We're the biggest. What are you going to do with that? Because he'll come knocking on that door too. He wants to suspend funding. That's another problem you're going to be dealing with.
Look, our values and our laws are not bargaining chips. We are proud of them. We are New Yorkers who believe that everyone in the city should be safe. And what these sanctuary city policies do is they say that ICE agents can't enter into a school or a city property without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. What they do is they inform New Yorkers of their own rights. And these used to be defended by Republicans and Democrats alike for decades because they created safety. I'm going to continue to defend them.
If there's less money, though, you're going to have to add more money to the budgets, right?
I'm not willing to give up people's rights because of the threats that are made. I'm confident of our ability to fight those threats.
Okay. How often do you talk to Mr. Trump?
You know, we've spoken a few times since our Oval Office meeting. We've exchanged a handful of texts, and it's always focused on the health and well-being of New Yorkers.
Mr. Mayor, stay right there. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about housing, your new housing, and how you'll measure success on the job. We'll be back with the Mayor of New York right after this. Welcome back to our interview with the Mayor of New York City. Mayor, I know you're busy. We're going to make this quick. We have lots of stuff.
Absolutely.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. You and your wife responding to living in the mansion. That's what I want to know about. Over the East River, 11,000 square feet, very different than a one-bedroom rent-regulated apartment in Astoria, Queens. What's it like?
Well, you realize that your queen bed isn't as big as you thought it was
yes,
when you move it into a new bedroom. But it is definitely a new life. I can say that it's been lovely to be welcomed into the neighborhood. The other day I was leaving Gracie Mansion, and there were a number of Upper East Siders who were there with their kids and just saying, well, welcome to your new home.
There you go. I looked at the website for your facility there, and it says, thank you for visiting. Available slots are limited if you want to be a visitor. You want this to be belonging to the people.
We want
of
this to be
New
the
York.
people's house.
Are they just going to walk in? Are you going to increase the number of times you can go there?
This is going to be one of the focuses of how we make Gracie Mansion into something that people understand in this city actually belongs to them. And whether it's that they can visit it, whether it's for events that are held there, or whether it's for engaging with the history of it. I mean, this used to be a place where it was a public bathroom at one point, it was an ice cream concession stand at another point. It was so many different iterations, like so many things in New York City. And we're excited to redefine it for the city.
Any change we can expect at Gracie Mansion while you're still in office? You know, like your wife, Rama, getting a cat when you're allergic to cats?
I got my shot yesterday.
How'd you do?
It's starting to hit,
Yeah, there you go.
but I took my
I'm
Zyrtec.
so sorry.
I took my Zyrtec.
But you're getting a cat because your wife wants one. That's
Yes, and I love cats.
You're winning people right now.
My body doesn't love cats, so I'm just trying to meet those two things. You know, the only other thing I'll tell you is that I was asked if we would make any changes. I just mentioned that, you know, we might install a few bidets in Gracie Mansion.
Never been there before.
You know, they're like a $25 water gun that
There
you
you go.
hook on the side of a toilet. And we actually got a lot of bidet companies who reached out to us to offer their help in installation.
I'm
but
sure they do.
we're fine.
Well, the economy could be helped by that.
We're not in the pocket of big bidet.
Two more questions. Have your parents visited that place where you're now living? I ask this because, like Jewish parents, I'm told by my producers here that Indian parents also like to give advice.
Yes.
Have your parents done that yet?
They've definitely given advice. They visited before it was ready for us to move in, but I'm sure that they'll be back sometime soon.
And they have been there several times yet?
They have been there. My mother's been there once. My father's been there twice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, keep us posted on that, because
Yes,
I think we're very interested. Last serious question.
Yes, please.
We're just 2.5 weeks into your tenure, where this is airing on Sunday. When we interview a year from now, Mr. Mayor, how do you hope to be judged in terms of what you got accomplished in a year?
Whether we made New Yorkers' lives more affordable, whether we made their lives better. And I think that sometimes it's the big things. It's the bills that you fear on the first of the month. Sometimes it's the little thing like a bump on the Williamsburg Bridge. But we have to be able to address both of them. And these last 2 weeks have been incredibly encouraging in showing that our ability to do just that.
You smile a lot, and people like that, and they all wave at you and everything else outside. But it's got to be tough sometimes.
You know, it's a difficult job, but this is a difficult city that we love. And I think that we don't shy away as New Yorkers from difficulty. We see it as a challenge, and then we meet it. And sometimes we exceed it, and that's going to be my responsibility.
Mr. Mayor, as always,
Thank you, my friend.
thank you.
Real
Good luck
pleasure.
to you, sir.
Thank
Come
you.
on anytime you want.
Thank you.
All right.
Absolutely.
And we'll be right back.
No matter how long you have called this city home, that love has shaped your life. I know that it has shaped mine. This is the city where I set land speed records on my Razor scooter at the age of 12. Quickest 4 blocks of my life. The city where I ate powdered donuts at half times during AYSO soccer games and realized I probably was not going to be going pro. The city where I devoured 2 big slices at Coronet's Pizza, played cricket with my friends at Ferry Point Park, and took the 1 train to the BX-10 only to still show up late to Bronx Science. The city where I have gone on hunger strike just outside these gates. Sat claustrophobic on a stalled N train just after Atlantic Avenue, and waited in quiet terror for my father to emerge from 26 Federal Plaza. The city where I took a beautiful woman named Rama to McCarran Park on our first date and swore a different oath to become an American citizen on Pearl Street. To live in New York, to love New York, is to know that we are the stewards of something without equal in our world.
Before we say goodbye for this Sunday, I want to show you something. This is the room where it happens, so to speak, if you take a look at this. This is in the Blue Room of this amazing building in New York. This is Alexander Hamilton. Just you wait. And he is in the room where it happens. And he's not the only one. There are tons of people with artwork about them, and I'd like to see if you recognize them. We're now out of the Blue Room and in the White Room. It's still 20 feet of ceiling up there. It's just amazing. With some of the more recent mayors of New York. Take a look at this. This is Mayor Bloomberg. This is Rudy Giuliani. Mayor David Dinkins. This is former Mayor Ed Koch, who would always say, "How am I doing?" And the last picture in all this, Abe Beame, who was mayor between 1973 and 1977. And there you go. You got a little history. And we thank the current mayor for interviewing with us today and for giving us space here in this incredible building. I'm Bill Ritter, and for all of us here at Eyewitness News, Channel 7, we wish you health and peace. And let's take care of each other.